The rain hadn't started yet, but the sky had the bruised, heavy look of a promise it intended to keep. I was driving home from Dr. Miller's office, my hands holding the steering wheel at 10 and 2. Just like James always insisted. The car was James's last one. A big sturdy sedan from a time when cars felt like they were made of iron and certainty. Now it was just old. The leather seats were cracked like drought-ridden earth, and there was a persistent rattle from somewhere under the dashboard that sounded like a tired ghost shaking a tin can. Every time I turned the key, I said a little prayer. Every time it turned over, I said a little thank you. Dr. Miller had used the word stable. My blood pressure was stable. My heart was stable. My sugar was stable. It's a word that sounds like a compliment but feels like a holding pattern. Stable means you are not getting better. You are simply not actively getting worse in a way that requires immediate intervention. At 82, I had learned to accept stability as a victory. The first sputter was so quiet I thought I'd imagined it. A little cough from the engine. A hiccup in the steady rhythm of the road. I pressed my foot on the gas, a gentle nudge of encouragement. The car responded with a lurch, then another more violent one. It felt like a horse refusing a fence. The cars on the highway around me were a blur of impatient metal. Their drivers cocooned in their own worlds of podcasts and phone calls and destinations. To them, I was just a slow-moving obstacle. A gray sedan holding up the flow of a Tuesday afternoon. Then came the silence. A profound and sudden lack of sound from the engine that was louder than any noise it had ever made. The car coasted, losing speed with a terrifying grace. I managed to steer it toward the shoulder, the wheel feeling heavy and lifeless in my hands. It came to a stop with a final weary sigh. And then, as if on cue, the first fat drop of rain hit the windshield. Then another. Then 100 more. The world outside dissolved into a wash of gray. I sat there for a moment, the ticking of the turn signal I'd forgotten to switch off sounding like a frantic tiny clock. The quiet in the car was immense. It was the quiet of being utterly alone. I took a deep breath, the air smelling of damp upholstery and old vinyl. My purse was on the passenger seat. Inside was my phone. My lifeline. My son Michael. That was the first name in my mind. My only child. He was an architect, important and busy. His office was downtown, maybe 20 minutes away without traffic. He would know what to do. He always knew what to do, even if his knowing often felt like impatience. I scrolled through my contacts, my thumb a little stiff with arthritis. The screen was too bright. I found his name with the picture of him and his wife, Jessica, and their 2 perfectly groomed dogs on a beach somewhere I'd never been. I pressed the call button. It rang once, twice. On the 3rd ring, he picked up. Mom? I'm in the middle of something. Is it important? The background noise was a low hum of conversation and the clinking of glasses. A restaurant, not an office. Michael, honey. The car, it broke down. Broke down where? His voice was strained, the words clipped. He was distracted. I could picture him perfectly. Holding the phone to his ear with his shoulder, one hand gesturing to a waiter, an apologetic smile aimed at Jessica. On the highway, the I-24 just past the river exit, the rain was coming down harder now, a relentless drumming on the roof. It was getting dark. There was a pause. I heard him sigh. It was a sound I knew well. The sigh of the inconvenienced. Okay. Well, did you call roadside assistance? Your membership should be in the glove compartment. I haven't looked yet. It's raining so hard, Michael. I'm on the shoulder, the cars are going by so fast. My voice sounded small and thin, even to my own ears. I sounded like a frail old woman. I hated it. Mom, I can't come get you right now. This is a work thing. It's important. Another clink of a glass, closer this time. I heard Jessica's faint laugh in the background. A work thing. Just call the number on the card. They'll send a tow truck. I'll check in with you in a bit. But Michael, gotta go. Call them, okay? The line went dead. I was left holding the phone, the silence of the car rushing back in to fill the space his voice had occupied. He didn't ask if I was scared. He didn't ask if I was safe. He gave me a task, a solution that required no effort from him, and he hung up. I stared at the dark screen of the phone. A work thing. I put the phone back in my purse. I did not open the glove compartment. The thought of fumbling for a card in the dim light, of trying to read the tiny print, of explaining my location to a stranger over a crackling line, felt like a mountain I could not climb. The rain hammered down. The windows were beginning to fog, sealing me into my own little world of cold vinyl and disappointment. It wasn't a sharp pain what I felt. It was a dull familiar ache that settled deep in my bones. It was the echo of 1,000 other moments. The Christmases he was too busy to visit, sending a gift card in the mail. The birthdays marked by a brief, perfunctory phone call. The time I had pneumonia and he suggested I hire a nurse rather than take a day off work to check on me. Each one was a small thing, a reasonable excuse, a logical decision from a busy and important man. But strung together, they formed a chain that was heavy and cold. I had poured my life into that boy. After James passed, Michael became the sun in my sky. I revolved around his needs, his schedule, his life. I made his favorite sweet potato pie for holidays he rarely attended. I kept his childhood room pristine, a museum to a boy who never looked back. I had made myself small so that his world could be large. And here I was, small and silent on the side of a highway in the rain. An item on a to-do list he had delegated to a stranger. I waited. Maybe he would call back. Maybe his conscience would get the better of him, and he'd tell Jessica the work thing would have to wait. I watched the traffic lights paint streaks of red and white on my wet windows. 10 minutes passed. Then 20. The car grew colder. The check-in he promised never came. My hands started to tremble then. Not from the cold. It was something else. A tremor starting from the inside. A quiet seismic shifting of the foundation I had built my life on. There was another number in my phone. I scrolled past Michael's name, past the picture of his smiling, distant life. I found the name Chloe, my caregiver. She was a young woman, only 24, working her way through nursing school. She came 3 times a week to help with groceries, cleaning, and driving me to appointments when I didn't feel up to it. She was kind, patient, and had a laugh that sounded like wind chimes. She was a professional, a person I paid for her time. She was not family. I pressed the button. She answered on the second ring. Miss Elara? Is everything okay? Her voice was warm, full of genuine concern. Chloe, honey. I'm in a bit of a pickle, I explained where I was. I didn't tell her I had called Michael. I didn't need to. The shame of it was my own to carry. Oh Lord, don't you move a muscle, she said immediately, her voice sharp with purpose. Don't get out of the car. Just lock your doors. I know right where that is. My Tuesday client is just off that exit. I can be there in 15 minutes. Sit tight. She didn't offer solutions or delegate the task. She just said, I'm coming, and she did. 15 minutes later, the rusty headlights of her old, sputtering hatchback cut through the rain. She pulled up behind me, her emergency lights flashing, creating a small, safe bubble of light in the storm. She was out of her car in a second, a big umbrella in her hand, her face a mask of worry. She helped me out of my car, her arm strong and steady under mine. She settled me into her passenger seat, which was covered in textbooks and a stray cardigan. She turned the heat up full blast. She handled the call to the tow company, her voice firm and efficient. She waited with me until the truck arrived, making small talk about her anatomy class to keep my mind off the roaring traffic. As we drove away, following the tow truck that carried my dead car like a prize, I looked back at the spot on the highway where I had been stranded. It was just an empty piece of road now, but something had ended there. Something had been left behind. Back in my warm, quiet house, Chloe insisted on making me a cup of tea. She bustled around my kitchen, her movements familiar and comforting. She found the Earl Grey, the honey, the lemon. She wrapped my favorite quilt around my shoulders, the one my grandmother had made. Its worn patches holding the stories of 3 generations. You just rest now, Miss Elara, she said, placing the steaming mug in my hands. You had a big scare. I looked at her young, kind face. She was paid to be here. But the concern in her eyes, the gentle way she tucked the quilt around my feet, That wasn't on the invoice. That was human decency. That was kindness. After she left, promising to call and check on me in the morning, the silence of the house descended again. But it was a different kind of silence now. It wasn't lonely. It was clarifying. The ticking of the grandfather clock in the hall was the only sound. Each tick was a second. Each second was a choice. My phone buzzed on the end table. A text from Michael. Car situation sorted? Not "Are you okay, Mom?" Not "I'm so sorry I couldn't be there." Just a question about the status of a problem. I stared at the words until they blurred. I deleted it. I did not reply. I sat in the velvet armchair that had been James's favorite spot, the teacup warm in my hands. The rain had softened to a gentle patter against the windows. I thought about the college fund. We had started it when Michael was just a boy. James and I. It was for his children. For the grandchildren we dreamed of. We'd put a little in every month year after year. Even after James was gone, I kept putting money in. It was a substantial amount now. A testament to a lifetime of careful saving and deferred dreams. Michael knew about the account. He called it the grandson fund. He'd joke about it sometimes. "Maybe we'll use it to put a pool in," he'd say with a laugh. And Jessica would smile, that tight, polite smile of hers. They didn't have children. They had the dogs and a life that was polished and child-free. The fund had become a symbol of a future I had imagined for him. A future he had no interest in building. It was my investment in a bloodline, in a legacy. But legacy wasn't about blood. Not really. It was about who you showed up for. Who you sheltered from the rain. A feeling settled over me. It was not anger. It was not bitterness. It was the cold, hard clarity of a diamond. It was a decision. The money in that account was not for a hypothetical grandson who would be taught that his grandmother was an inconvenience. It was my money, my savings, my deferred dreams, and I could choose where to plant them. The next morning I called Mr. Henderson. He had been our family lawyer for 40 years. His voice was a slow, reassuring rumble. "Elara, good to hear from you. Everything all right?" "Everything is fine, David," I said, my own voice sounding steadier than it had in years. "I need to make an appointment. I'm making some changes to my estate." The day after that, I was sitting in his office. It smelled of old books and leather and quiet dignity. He listened patiently as I laid it all out. I wanted to revoke Michael's power of attorney. I wanted to change the beneficiary on my life insurance. I wanted to amend my will. And I wanted to close a specific investment account. He didn't ask why. He simply nodded, making notes on a yellow legal pad. "These are significant changes, Elara." "I am a significant woman," I said. And the words felt truer than anything I had said in a long time. From the lawyer's office, I went to the bank. I sat with a young woman whose name tag read Stephanie. She was efficient and professional. I asked for the balance of the grandson fund. She typed into her computer. The number that appeared on her screen made me catch my breath. It was more than I had realized. It was the price of a small house. It was 4 years at a state university. It was a new beginning. "I'd like to close the account," I told Stephanie. "I'll take it as a cashier's check." Walking out of the bank with that check in my purse felt like walking on air. It wasn't about the money. It was about the weight of it. The weight of obligation, of one-sided love, of waiting for a return on an investment that would never mature. And now it was gone. I felt light. That afternoon my phone rang. It was Michael. I let it go to voicemail. The message he left was laced with irritation. "Mom, I've texted you and called you. Are you getting my messages? Just call me back. I need to know you're not, dead in a ditch somewhere." His attempt at humor was jarring. He wasn't worried about me. He was annoyed that I had broken my pattern of immediate availability. I deleted the voicemail. Not replied. Deleted. A few hours later, a call from Jessica. I let that go to voicemail too. "Elara, Michael is very worried. We just want to know you're okay. It's not like you to not answer. Please just send a text." The concern was a thin veneer over the steel of her annoyance. I was disrupting their neatly ordered world. I was a loose thread they needed to tuck back into place. I deleted it. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went into Michael's old room. It was just as he'd left it 25 years ago, only cleaner. The baseball trophies on the shelf. The faded poster of a car he'd wanted. The single bed with the quilt I'd made for his high school graduation. I opened the closet. Inside were boxes of his old school papers, his yearbooks, his childhood drawings. A shrine to the boy he was. A boy I had clung to long after the man had replaced him. Methodically, I began to pack it all into larger boxes. I labeled them Michael's memories. I did not feel sad. I felt efficient. I was no longer a curator of his past. I was the architect of my own future. When Chloe arrived the next day, she found me cleaning out the pantry. "Goodness, Miss Elara, you've got the energy of a woman half your age today," she said with a smile. "Spring cleaning in the fall," I said. It felt necessary. Her old hatchback had made a terrible noise pulling into the driveway. A screeching, grinding sound that made me wince. "Car trouble?" I asked. She sighed, rubbing her forehead. "The usual. The mechanic says the transmission is on its last prayer. I don't know what I'm going to do, Miss Elara. I can't get to my classes or my clients without a car. And I can't afford a new one. Not even a used one." Really, she tried to smile, but it didn't reach her eyes. "But that's not your worry. Let's get these groceries put away." I watched her as she stacked cans of beans and tomatoes, her brow furrowed with a worry she was trying to hide from me. She was a good person. A kind soul who worked hard, who showed up, who cared. She was trying to build a future for herself, one that involved helping other people. And her future was being threatened by a failing transmission. My decision, which had been clear and abstract, now had a face. It had a name. "Chloe," I said, my voice firm. "I need you to do me a favor. Tomorrow I need you to drive me somewhere. I'm thinking of buying a new car. A smaller, more sensible one. And I trust your judgment." Her eyes lit up. "Oh, Miss Elara, that's wonderful. Of course I'll help. It'll be fun." The next day we went to a car dealership. The place was bright and sterile, smelling of new plastic and forced air freshener. A young salesman with a slick smile and too much hair gel descended upon us. "What can I get you lovely ladies into today?" he asked, his eyes flicking over me, dismissing me as the old woman, and landing on Chloe, the decision-maker. "We're just looking," I said quietly. "My friend is helping me find something safe and reliable." We spent an hour walking the lot. I let Chloe do the talking. She pointed out the models with the best safety ratings. She talked about gas mileage and warranties. I saw her run her hand over the hood of a modest, deep blue sedan. A Honda. Sensible. Sturdy. Stable. "This one's nice," she said, her voice a little wistful. "It would last a person forever. Let's take it for a test drive," I said. Chloe drove. Her hands were sure on the wheel. The car was quiet, smooth. I watched her face. I saw the tension in her shoulders ease. I saw a small, genuine smile play on her lips as she merged effortlessly onto the highway. For a moment, she wasn't a worried student with a dying car. She was just a young woman driving toward her future. When we got back to the dealership, I turned to the salesman. "We'll take it," I said. He led us into his little glass cubicle. I took out my purse. Chloe sat beside me, ready to offer advice on negotiating the price. I didn't negotiate. I took the cashier's check out of my purse and placed it on the desk. "I'll be paying in full," I said. The salesman's eyes widened. He looked at the check, then at me, his professional smile replaced by genuine surprise. He became much more attentive after that. There was a mountain of paperwork. I signed where he told me to sign. When it came to the title and registration, I looked at Chloe. "I'll need your full name and address for this part," I said. She looked confused. "Mine? But it's your car, Miss Elara." "No, honey," I said, my voice soft but steady. "It's yours." Her jaw dropped. Her eyes filled with tears. She stared at me, then at the paperwork, then back at me. "What? I don't understand. I can't. Miss Elara, I can't accept this." "You can and you will," I said, taking her hand. It was trembling. I had an investment that wasn't paying out. I decided to move my assets. You, Chloe, are a blue-chip stock. You are a sound investment in a better future. This car is to make sure you get there. She started to cry then, silent tears rolling down her cheeks. The salesman suddenly found something very interesting to look at on his computer screen. But your son, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. My son has his own car, I said simply. Now write down your name. We have papers to sign driving home. With Chloe driving me in her brand new car, was a quiet affair. The car still had that new smell. Chloe kept touching the steering wheel, the dashboard, as if to make sure it was real. How can I ever thank you? She asked as she walked me to my door. You already have, I told her. You answered the phone. The news, as I knew it would, traveled fast. Perhaps a neighbor saw the new car in Chloe's driveway. Perhaps Chloe, in her excitement, told a friend who knew a friend. Or perhaps Michael finally drove by my house to see if I was, in fact, dead in a ditch, and saw my old car missing from the driveway. However it happened, it happened. 2 days later my doorbell rang. It was Michael. He was not smiling. His face was a thundercloud. Jessica was in the car at the curb, staring straight ahead. A statue of disapproval. I opened the door but did not invite him in. I stood on the threshold, a boundary I had never set before. What have you done? He asked, his voice low and furious. He didn't even say hello. I'm not sure what you mean, Michael. Don't play dumb with me, Mom. The car. The money. Mrs. Henderson next door said she saw your caregiver driving a brand new Honda. A brand new one. I called the bank. You closed the grandson fund. His voice was rising now, incredulity warring with rage. That was for my family. For your grandchild. You don't have a grandchild, Michael, I said calmly. You have a dog that wears a sweater. And the money was not for your family. It was from my family. From me and your father. It was mine to do with as I pleased. So you gave it to her? The help? Are you insane? Has she been manipulating you? I swear I'll have her charged with elder abuse. You're not in your right mind. I looked at my son. My tall, successful, handsome son. And I felt nothing. The space where my unconditional love for him had lived was now a calm, quiet, empty room. It was clean. It was peaceful. I have never been more in my right mind than I am right now, I said, and my voice did not shake. Let me tell you what happened, Michael. A few days ago my car broke down on the highway. It was raining. It was getting dark. And I was scared. I called you. I called my son. And you told me you were at a work thing, and you hung up on me. His face flushed. He remembered. It was an important dinner, Mom. I told you I'd check in. No, you didn't, I interrupted, my voice still quiet, but with a core of steel he had never heard before. You never called back. So I called Chloe. And she left her client, drove through the storm, and she got me. She sat with me until the tow truck came. She took me home. She made me tea. She showed up. It's that simple. So you bought her a car? As a tip. He sneered. That money was my inheritance. It was for my future. No, I said, looking him directly in the eye. Your inheritance is the character your father and I tried to build in you. It is the memory of a mother who loved you without limit. The money was just money. And I decided to invest it in someone who understands the value of showing up. Someone who answers the phone when a person is in trouble. He was speechless. He stared at me as if I were a stranger. And in that moment I suppose I was. I was no longer the soft, accommodating, ever-present background to his life. I was a person. With boundaries. With choices. With a will of my own. I think you should go now, Michael, I said. He opened his mouth, then closed it again. He shook his head in disbelief, turned on his heel, and stalked back to his expensive car, where his wife was still waiting, her disapproval a palpable force even from a distance. I watched them drive away. Then I closed my front door. I did not slam it. I closed it gently, firmly, until I heard the soft click of the latch. The house was silent. The grandfather clock ticked in the hall. I went to the mantelpiece and picked up the framed photo of Michael on his 5th birthday, all gap-toothed smile and bright, innocent eyes. I looked at it for a long time. Then I turned it to face the wall. My new life began that day. It was a quiet life. A simple life. Chloe still came to see me, but she refused to let me pay her. "Friends don't charge friends for a cup of tea," she'd say. She was doing well in her classes. The car, she said, had changed everything. It gave her time. It gave her peace of mind. It gave her a future. I started working in my garden again. I planted gardenias by the porch, their sweet scent filling the evening air. I reconnected with my friends from church. I joined a book club. I found that my days, which had once been structured around waiting for a call or a visit from Michael, were now full. They were full of my own choices. I sold the big house, which was now too full of ghosts and memories I no longer needed to cure it. I bought a small, sunny condominium in a community for active seniors. It had a balcony where I could keep my plants and a view of a small lake. The boxes of Michael's things went into a storage unit. I sent him the key in the mail with no return address. A month after I moved, a letter arrived. It was forwarded from my old address. The handwriting was Michael's. I let it sit on my new kitchen counter for 3 days before I opened it. It was not an angry letter. It was not a demanding letter. It was 5 pages long. He wrote about the phone call. He wrote that he had been trying to impress a new client that night. He wrote that he had been ashamed of my old car, of my old-fashioned ways, and that his shame had made him cruel. He wrote that when he saw the empty house, when he realized I was truly gone from his life, he had finally understood what he had lost. It wasn't the money. It was me. He apologized. Not for being busy. He apologized for being a bad son. He asked for nothing. He simply said he hoped that one day, he could earn the right to be in my life again. I read the letter twice. Then I folded it and put it in a drawer. The next day I was having tea on my balcony with Chloe. She was telling me about a difficult clinical rotation at the hospital. She was going to be a wonderful nurse. I felt a surge of pride, a quiet joy in the good I had put out into the world. My phone rang. It was an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but I did. "Hello." A pause. Then a hesitant voice. "Mom? It's me." "Michael." I was silent for a moment. I looked out at the sun sparkling on the lake. I listened to the sound of Chloe's gentle laughter as she described one of her patients. My life was full. It was peaceful. It was mine. "Hello, Michael," I said. My voice was calm and steady. It was the voice of a woman who was no longer waiting by the phone. "How are you?" The door was not closed, but it was not wide open either. It was cracked just enough for the light to get in. He would have to earn his way through it. And I had all the time in the world to see if he would. I was stable.